Some of our communal organisations have been patting themselves on the back recently for reaching out to the Labor Party and reporting on a dialogue they have had with current leader Anthony Albanese and other party heavyweights. They all got a bit excited with what they perceived as positive experiences, but I have to say, I'm much less enthralled. The issue of rising anti-Semitism and the nasty upswing in BDS promotion was raised, at which point Albo voiced the expected condemnation. Well, of course he would. Not even Albo could avoid saying anything else and remain credible. He then went on to say that Labor would support the adoption of the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. But I can guarantee one thing, this will never happen. For those unfamiliar with it, this latest definition of anti-Semitism was formulated in 2016 by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance in Europe. And what makes it work are the explanatory notes that complement it, one of which states very clearly that unfair, and I repeat unfair, criticism of Israel is indeed regarded as anti-Semitism. And herein lies the problem, particularly for left-leaning organisations and political parties such as Labor, which is getting closer to the Greens all the time. Everybody on the left insists that their criticism of Israel is never anti-Semitism, but they get caught under this definition because their regular slander of Israel has never been applied to any other country. But this also raises another question. Why has Labor never called for a parliamentary motion for this definition to be adopted? It is hard to take them seriously. Also discussed were other subjects such as Labor's policy of recognising something called a State of Palestine. But did our leadership organisations even bother to raise the disgraceful gagging of Michael Danby when all he wanted to do was introduce some debate on the subject? If they did, they are not telling. Also on the agenda was the blatant anti-Israel bias of the ABC. And yet after all this discussion, what successes can our erstwhile leaders claim they have achieved here? I can tell you, absolutely nothing. They licked the boots of the Labor Party, but didn't get one concession out of them on anything of real importance to the Australian Jewish community. Yes, Albo criticised Bob Carr, but that wasn't taking much of a risk, as 95% of people on all sides of politics thinks he is a total nutter. What we need is to see the Labor Party standing up for the Jewish community. But all our leaders got was more spin than a stack of records, and what was worse, they thanked Albo and his comrades profusely and no doubt walked away congratulating each other on how successful they have been. Does the word naive come to mind? And let's not forget that old chestnut where Albo and Penny Wong reiterated Labor's support for a two-state solution, and our leaders swallowed it hook, line and sinker, despite the fact that for over 100 years the Arabs have not shown one iota of interest in coexisting peacefully alongside a Jewish Israel. Labor has got our communal leaders wrapped around their little fingers, and they know it. All Labor needs to do is make a few warm and fuzzy motherhood statements, and our lefty communal organisations fall into line like good little ALP soldiers. The only way to get better service from our communal organisations is to let them know loud and clear how we, as a Jewish community, want them to represent us. Here at the AJA, we will do our part to get the message from the silent majority across, but we need your support to do it effectively. We are already the most engaged Jewish communal organisation on social media, and our local organisations absolutely hate that. They hate it because you, me and everyone else has a voice that they can't ignore. So if you are not yet a member of the Australian Jewish Association, please join. It's easy to do by going to jewishassociation.org.au. The more support we get, the louder our voice becomes and the easier it is for us to fight on your behalf. We can't do it without you. This is Alan Friedman for the Australian Jewish Association.